Good evening. I am pleased to welcome all of you to the 2019 Mount Airy Town Council Roundtable. I am Matthew Geiger, your host and moderator, joined today by 3 of the 4 candidates running for Town Council this election cycle. Please note that every candidate was also invited to this event. First, a little bit about myself. I'm a 17-year-old student at South Carroll High School, and I have been a town resident since 2006. Last summer, this town sent me to the American Legion Boys State program, which subsequently sent me to the American Legion Boys Nation program. Through these experiences, I learned the ins and outs of how government works in this country and in this town. I have taken that knowledge and I have accumulated it into tonight's presentation. I decided to organize this event because I saw a need for the citizens of this town to listen and get informed on the candidates and in the issues that matter. Additionally, as someone who has attended the past several forums in this town, I decided to create a new format for this event that will hopefully foster civil discussion. This roundtable will be formatted into 3 sections. Section 1 will consist of general questions asked to all 3 of the candidates. Section 2 will consist of questions asked about individual policies that individual candidates support. Lastly, Section 3 will be questions asked by all of you watching over Facebook Live. Please note that you should hold your questions until after the intermission that will occur about halfway through this presentation. In an effort to alleviate any potential bias, all 3 of the candidates have received the questions about several days in advance of today's presentation. The forum tonight will be able to be viewed on YouTube thereafter, and will also be able to be watched on Facebook as well for the remainder of the campaign. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So we'll begin by having 60-second opening statements presented by each of the candidates, starting from Pamela and working our way down to Mr. Munder. So you have 60 seconds to go ahead and get us off.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pamela Reed, a 2019 Mount Airy Town Council candidate. I would like to thank Matthew, who is our moderator and organizer of this event, and my fellow candidates for offering to serve Mount Airy. I have been honored to serve Mount Airy as a volunteer for many years, which has kept me in tune with the community. I understand the struggles and successes of our small businesses, the need for sense of community, and the desire to maintain a small town charm. As servants of the community, we should not promote our own agenda. Instead, we should listen to those we serve. I am running for town council because I want to serve the community and contribute to Mount Airy's bright future. New leadership in town council provides the opportunity for improvement. I will do my best to answer all questions. If I don't feel that I am knowledgeable enough to answer all questions, I will defer and post my answer on Facebook at a later time.
Great, thank you for getting us started. Councilmember Poirier.
Good evening. My name is Jason Poirier, and I'm running for my 2nd term on the Town Council. 4 years ago, when I first ran, my knowledge was not nearly as extensive as the candidates that are with me here today. But I knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be involved. I knew that I was going to work hard, and I knew that I could make a difference for the betterment of the town and its residents. Since this time 4 years ago, I have had the pleasure of ensuring that Mount Airy and its residents are for the better. I come today with a wealth of knowledge to help ensure Mount Airy's success for its future. On May 6th, with your support, I look forward to assisting and working with new council members that are just as dedicated as I. This position requires patience, problem solving, and a commitment that will push anyone to its limits. With the last 4 years under my belt and 19 years as an educator, trust that nothing has deterred me from stepping down from a challenge. Let my past experience show that I am partial, patient, and hold true to the promises that I've made in the past, and let me continue to serve you for the next 4 years.
Great. Mr. Munder.
Hi, thank you. Hello to the residents of Mount Airy. My name is Karl Munder, and I hope to be one of your next town council members. Before I continue, I would like to thank my fellow opponents, council members Peter Helt and Bob King for their years of service, and I would like to also thank Matt Geiger for taking the initiative and setting this roundtable discussion. When the word got out that there would be no forum and the citizens wanted some type of face-to-face discussion. So now a quick summary of who I am. I have lived in the town of Mount Airy for the past 8 years, but have been a resident in the South Carroll and Western Howard County area for 40 plus years. Been married to my best friend and wife, Kim, for the past 15 years, and have a 9-year-old daughter who attends the wonderful public schools here in town. I volunteered for my HOA board, downtown events, the annual camp night here in town, Rails to Trails cleanup days, the Caboose Visitor Center, and have been my daughter's Brownie Troops cookie dad for the past several years. Currently, I am serving on the Recreation and Parks Board, the Water and Sewer Commission, and have served on the Streets and Road Commission. I'm a little bit over. I've also been a regular attendee to the town council meetings and other various commission meetings. So let's get this event going so the residents of Mount Airy can compare the candidates themselves.
Thank you. Now we will begin with the first round of questions. In section 1, each candidate will be asked the exact same question and will be granted 1 minute to answer said question. After every candidate has had that opportunity to answer the question, we will then begin a series of follow-ups. Each candidate will be granted 30 seconds to then follow up either on a statement that they've made earlier or a statement that another candidate has made. Beginning with you, Pamela. The first question of the night. Do you support any proposals that would potentially raise taxes within our town? If not, can you commit to not raising the town tax rates during your term as a council member?
Currently, I would not support raising taxes. Our property values are high, and we have quite a substantial reserves. With that said, there's no way to predict the future, so I would not say that, I could not guarantee that the need wouldn't be there.
Okay. Councilman Poirier.
At this time, I would not support any raises in taxes unless something drastic within the downtown vision plan called for it. Currently, right now, we're at 16 cents per the $100, which equated to about $1.89 million. If our current budget could not support it, then yes, a raise would be needed, and I would propose for that to go from 16 cents to about 18 cents, which then would raise our revenue up to $2 million to help support the vision plan. But that would only be if the vision plan called for it.
Okay. Mr. Munder, your response?
Currently, I'm not aware of any proposals before the town council that would raise any taxes. And as currently said, the Mount Airy receives its bulk of revenues from its property tax assessment. I believe the Mount Airy tax rate is one, if not the lowest, among the Carroll County municipalities. And I believe the way the tax rate works is the mayor decides what the annual property tax assessment will be, and the council only yeas and nays it. So any increases in taxes would have to come from the mayor first for the council to approve later. And if a tax would have to be raised, I would have to wait and see what the mayor proposes as a increase and the logic for doing so before I can make an informed decision on approving or denying such a request.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
Only that we have, our tax rate is basically, when the property value goes up, the tax rate goes down. When the property value goes down, the tax rate goes up, and that's so we have a constant yield. I support that program.
Councilman Poirier?
I would like to just tag on to what Mr. Munder said, that we are one of the lowest in the state, and certainly the lowest in Carroll County. But by being so low, it doesn't always afford us the opportunity to grow and help with the betterment of the residents within our downtown vision plan.
Thank you. Mr. Munder?
No fault at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to our second question of the night. Do you support or propose any methods of revenue generation that do not include taxation? If so, what specifically? Pamela, your response.
So our main source of income is personal property tax. If we focus on commercial growth, we have the opportunity for additional revenue. And according to the 2013 Comprehensive Master Plan, that is what the town of Mount Airy should be focusing on.
Okay. Councilman Poirier.
As far as the any other methods, the town has actually done away with some of its additional revenue by eliminating dog tag fees in the dog park I'm against implementing any parking space devices, speed cameras, or any other means that would penalize the residents or the non-residents that travel through and provide income to small businesses. As far as generating revenue, I would look at a public-private partnership, especially with the expansion of Center Street and our downtown vision plan. The public-private partnership would allow some of those private business industries to maybe have some naming rights or provide funding that the town wouldn't necessarily need to pay for, and would allow that additional revenue through the town, and its residents could benefit from that.
Thank you. Mr. Munder.
Oh, well, some fees charged by the town do go to specific areas of town operations. Most revenue generated by fees is deposited in the town's general fund. So yet, again, I believe the mayor would have to request any increase in the fees via the commissions, and the council would have to approve it again. So I would also have to wait to see the proposed fee increase, what it's used for, and the logic behind it before I can support or deny such a fee increase. If a fee would have to be increased, would have to be beneficial to the town or to go straight to the town operations.
Okay. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
Pass.
Jason.
I want to add on and say that we are doing some of the public-private partnerships. Currently on a commission that I'm serving with the Sustainable Mount Airy Commission, we have been able to propose some dog stations that allow commercial businesses to buy the station and provide refillable disposable bags while also getting their advertising out. So we are doing some of those things. We could do it certainly on a bigger scale to provide revenue for the town.
Thank you.
You're
Mr. Munder.
None at this time. I pass.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to our third question of the night. New Windsor has recently piloted, the pay-as-you-throw trash service. In short, the program requires town residents to use specialized garbage bags to have their waste picked up, and recycling is free, essentially turning trash services into a metered utility. Do you support implementing this program in Mount Airy?
While I support reduce, reuse, and recycle, and recognize the need for reduced waste, I think it's important that we review and assess the DPW findings from the New Windsor pilot, as well as get feedback from the community. One thing that would be a possibility, if there was enough interest, is to institute the program as a volunteer program, and as interest and momentum goes, builds, we can relook at it and see if it's something that can actually work in Mount Airy.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier.
I could see Mount Airy adopting this service. Currently, the town spends $151,000 in residential trash and $87,000 in recycling. And from what I've learned from the program, recycling is free with this hauler. I do raise several questions though, and end up thinking about recycling is that if people don't want to put all their trash inside the bag, do they put more stuff into the recycling, hence trying to save money on the trash side? Two, China has actually begun to put restrictions on what can and cannot be recycled, which is actually affecting Mount Airy and its residents currently right now. So will we actually be creating more trash on the recycling side? I would want to find out a little bit more about what the residents thought. With the pay-as-you-go services, would residents also then expect other services to be pay-as-you-go? And as a community, I think we all need to be in this together as a major service that is provided to the town. I think that could impact its residents.
Thank you. Mr. Munder.
Okay, thank you, Matt. The only information I've seen on the New Windsor program is what was put in an editorial in the Carroll County on April 17th. While the data that was presented in the editorial seems promising, I would like to see the final report before I can say yay or nay on this program, and to see what worked and what did not work, so we do not repeat the same mistakes. I do believe if New Windsor's final results are promising, I would be interested in exploring this idea here in Mount Airy, first by talking with town residents to see if there is a need or a want for such a program, and conducting research on the costs associated with this program for the town.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
Yeah, so in the article that was posted, there was also some concern about illegal dumping. That's a concern.
Yeah.
Another concern is taxpayers pay for trash service through their personal property taxes. So if we implement a program like this, what sort of incentive or break would we offer? So a lot of questions.
Okay. Councilman Poirier.
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
Mr. Munder?
No, I think pretty good coverage here on this question.
Okay, great. Moving on to question number 4. Local politics are notorious for having a low voter turnout. In what ways will you increase political engagement and voting numbers within this town?
So this problem is not unique to Mount Airy. Several things we can do. Pre-register young voters. This could potentially ensure their involvement as they become of age. We can educate the community a little bit more on the importance and the benefits of voting and acting on your civic engagement. Make sure that we are utilizing the right tools, news media, social media, public meetings, those types of things. This is sort of an out of the box idea and something interesting I found on the internet. In the 19th century, U.S. turnout for elections was 80%. And the reason for this is we actually took the fun out of voting. Back in the mid-19th century, it was a festival type event to encourage community bonding and socializing. Who's to say we couldn't do that again?
All right, thank you. Councilman Poirier.
Pamela has brought up some great points, and I would actually like to commend Pamela on some of her efforts in creating a youth commission that would make younger residents aware of what it is that the local government, the town of Mount Airy, is actually involved with. And Pamela actually started that and is currently running that. But as far as getting more people to vote, I think it's also up to the town to do a better job of making sure that better advertising, signage, and banners are posted. It's not just the 3 or 4 people that are running for council or mayor. I think it's also up to the town. People are jumping around with signs on 27 and Twin Arc, and I have people drive by and say there was an election today, and I laugh because I'm like, I was out there holding a sign and you didn't see me or asked why I was in school. So it really is, if you want to be involved, if you want to get your voice heard, people are going to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Munder.
Okay, thank you. There's 2 parts to this question. It's like public engagement and how to get people out to vote. First off, the public engagement was an attempt to get more residents involved in town affairs by making information related to the council votes easier to find on the town's website. Right now, it's hard to find. The information I would post would include the ordinance, what council member voted, what way, and any council member comments and any other public comments that were given, so people can feel like they are engaged in the ordinance making process. Also, for getting more people out to vote, I kind of agree with Councilman Poirier here, is that we need to advertise it across multiple mediums, and also put the information, maybe consider putting the information in the cases on the Welcome to Mount Airy signs. That's why everyone drives by it. And also, the town can only do so much with this. It's really up to the residents to make an effort to learn more, get involved, and to come out and vote.
All right, thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
No, thank you.
Councilman Poirier?
I just want to add on to what Mr. Munder was saying about the website, and I think we've made some really good progress over the past couple months with some transition with some employees at Town Hall and getting a little bit more comfortable with using the computers and the internet and the website, and everything else has been very collaborative. Making sure that agendas are posted and that we're trying to reduce on paper, but also that allows residents to be prepared at home so that when they do come to the council meeting that they have their question, they understand what's going on, and I can see some of the ideas that you had mentioned as far as voters, how the council members voted.
Mr. Munder?
I would like to say I agree with Councilman Poirier and that the town has improved this website access over time as people get more comfortable with it, and I'd like to thank you for entertaining my thoughts on making the votes more accessible.
Okay. Moving on to question number 5. The Flatiron building seems to be brought up in almost every single election cycle. The building sits sandwiched between Park Avenue and Main Street and has been owned by the town for decades. What plans do you have for the Flatiron building if elected?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
The first part of this question that I took away is that it keeps coming up in every election, and that the issue is still an issue and we're still talking about it today. The building has historic sentiment within town, and we all appreciate and love that. But there are things to consider. The 2013 Comprehensive Master Plan, as well as the Mount Airy Downtown Vision Plan, both address this. And when we're talking about what we're going to do with it, we need to consider the vision plan, the comprehensive plan, what's best for Mount Airy, the historical sentiment, as well as what the community wants. I think it's time to sit down and have that discussion. We've spent money on multiple studies, and again, it is time to move forward. I think you have to weigh your options to renovate it. It's structurally unsound. It needs to become ADA compliant. But what are the ramifications on Main Street if we renovate it versus if we tear down and redevelop? Redeveloping will add, it will give us the opportunity to expand Main Street, widen the sidewalk, making it more pedestrian friendly. The point is, it's time to sit down and have the discussion.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier.
I would like to memorialize it in some way or another, incorporate it into the downtown vision plan. We've had every professional engineer come through here and vision planners and tell us that this building is unsafe, is structurally unsound, and yet there it is still standing, and 4 years later I'm still talking about it. We need to, Pamela is correct that we need to have a discussion, and people are afraid to make a decision because it is very sentimental to many of the residents that reside in our town.
Thank you, Mr. Munder.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to concur with my fellow opponents here that it is a very loaded question, a tough question, and it is a very sentimental building within town. But over the years, as I've been following this issue, there's been a lot of information put out there via the town on about the stability of it and the proposed uses. So I would want to review the town has put out there the information to make an informed decision about its fate. But while reviewing the information, and the town is focusing its efforts elsewhere on the redevelopment of downtown, primarily the rail yard and old bank building, I would like to meet with organizations that have offered in the past to help us with funding, renovation, and other things, and then research and positive restoration efforts can be done in a way that the town is not adversely impacted by it. And I would like to see a repurpose for a use that would be beneficial to the town, primarily maybe leaning towards the arts community use.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
Yeah, so 2 concerns. If it's renovated and made ADA compliant, my concern would be how much usable space is actually left. Versus if it were torn down and redeveloped, where would Mount Airy benefit more? So those are the things that we need to discuss and weigh.
Thank you.
I would try to make sure that the impact on Main Street is not one that such disrupts all of the traffic flow and the small businesses that are here within town, that when we try to move forward with the vision plan and we take a look at the importances of what needs to be completed, that the businesses that are already down here and the residents that are trying to move into Main Street or through Main Street, that there is no disruption to their life. And as I said earlier, I think we should memorialize it. It's an important building that had history to our town.
Thank you. Mr. Munder.
Nothing.
Moving on to question number 6. Another subject of long-standing debate is Center Street. Do you support connecting it to 27? If so, how do you plan to accomplish such, and how would you develop the surrounding area?
So I think connecting Center Street and developing the Beck property is smart growth. It would be considered infill because it's already part of the town. Capital, we can actually pay for this through capital improvements. I learned today that there's something called the Center Street Fund. Any business on Center Street has to contribute to this fund to actually help finance the extension. We could, if the town paid for the Center Street extension, we could recoup some, if not all of the costs through impact fees and additional commercial tax revenue. I would support mixed use. I think it would offer a quality and enhancement to the community that could attract younger families, additional dining, shopping, walking paths to make us more pedestrian friendly. And if we do so responsibly and actually bring the character of Main Street out to this new development area, it would complement our town.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier.
This is one of the excuse me. This is one of the topics that we were talking about once again 4 years ago, in trying to look at the vision of Mount Airy. And Center Street does need to be finished, and it needs to be connected to provide additional traffic, limit those more hindering spots within Main Street. I would like to use our vision plan as a guide to help us determine what is best and at what time the completion of the projects need to be finished. I think this is a great opportunity for our public and private additional revenue source of income that would allow those private industries to come on in, pay for things that the town wouldn't necessarily have to pay for. Pamela mentioned a few other ideas that the town does not need to spend its own revenue to pay for this. That we can certainly present ideas that would allow other corporations to come on in.
Thank you. Mr. Munder?
I'll agree with Councilman Poirier. This is a question that's been around for 4 years and probably longer than that. But I look at it, the completion of Center Street can be done in one or two ways. Either the town completes it, or wait for a developer to purchase the Beck property and make the connection. I would prefer the first option, since it would not require the town to potentially make concessions to a developer for the completion of the road. And I would prefer it to be the other way around, when if a developer came in to complete the Beck property, that they have to pay us for the road at later, so we would recoup the cost. And when the land surrounding Center Street is developed, I would like to see what type of proposal the developer brings into town. Any proposal that would be presented would have to complement the downtown area and not compete with it, not overburden the town resources, and maintain the small town character of Mount Airy.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
No, thank you.
Councilman Poirier?
The only thing that I would like to add on, and partnering off of what Mr. Munder was saying, is with the completion of Center Street. We have a great team here with engineers that would be able to guide with the water and sewer, and also the road layout. And I would allow that public-private partnership to be more dealt with the buildings and the surrounding areas, so that we wouldn't have to pay for that, such as the Beck property, and just allow us to put the road through.
Thank you. Mr. Munder?
No, not yet.
Okay. Moving on to the final question of Section 1. Mount Airy's population is estimated to have grown only 1.6% from 2010 to 2017, according to the last census estimate. This is in stark contrast with the past few decades, and will be the first time since the 1940s in which the town hasn't grown at least 25% or more in population. Who or what is to blame for this population stagnation, and do you foresee it as an impediment to future development? Pamela, your response.
So between 2000 and 2010, the town of Mount Airy experienced record growth. Because of that growth and a reaction from the community, the town limited the number of building permits allowed. This certainly contributed to the lower growth rate. I think it's important to consider economic sustainability, and we need to look at infill and redevelopment of our properties, kind of review and update our community amenities, which again will attract new families to the community. It's the idea that if we overdevelop, we will decrease our property values. So we want to be careful not to overdevelop, but we want to develop enough that we're able to sustain our economy.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier.
I would like to agree with what Pamela was stating earlier. Right up until 2010, The county itself realized how much we were booming and decided to build a whole nother elementary school, at which time the town itself needed to take a look at its APFO to meet up with the demand of what was going on. Since then, though, we've kind of laid off and held true and still, but I also want to let people know that future development is on the way. And I wouldn't say anyone is to blame per se. If a commercial developer does not want to come in and buy farmland or buy land to then build houses, then that land is not going to be developed. So investors need to see our town's potential, and I think with the downtown vision plan, we're going to be able to see that. And only time will tell about what's going to happen with the vision plan. The residents are not really complaining. However, when they do, you know, it's about traffic situations and things like that, which impact all of us with commuter traffic. We are a central hub to Route 70. So making sure that we grow within time will be best for Mount Airy.
Thank you. Mr. Munder.
I'd like to say they've covered a lot of the issues, but I'd just like to add that there is no one reason or person to blame for the slow population growth in Mount Airy over the past several years, but it was probably more a combination of factors such as the building boom, bust, the recession, the town being put on hold for building from the state for the lack of water, and the completion of several major residential developments in town. So there was nothing in the pipeline to be built. And I do not see the slow rate of growth that we have encountered over the past several years as an impediment to the future growth, but it's more of a positive. The town has been able to revise its practices that has allowed for such rapid growth in the past. And as the town moves forward, it can proceed now with a more sustainable rate of growth. That's it.
Oh, that's it?
That's
Okay.
it.
All right, great. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
No, thank you.
Councilman Poirier?
I'm okay, thank you.
Mr. Munder?
No, I'd just like to say that they've covered a lot, and it can be taken forward at a slower rate and more sustainable rate of growth.
All right, great. Moving on to section 2 of this roundtable. So section 2, the rules are slightly altered and the style of questions are also slightly altered. In section 2, I will be asking individual candidates to highlight specific aspects of their campaign. These questions have been developed from each of these candidates' Carroll County Times profile and will be asked on that basis. So the way that this will work in terms of timing is each candidate will be granted 30 seconds to answer the question unless you are the one that I'm individually addressing. Beginning with Pamela, sorry. In your Carroll County Times profile, you stated that you were, quote, I'm not running to make a change, but rather to promote economic sustainability and small, smart growth. In what ways will you promote economic sustainability and small, smart growth if elected?
So Mount Airy's identity is small town charm. As our community grows, we need to ensure that we preserve this. The development that we allow has to complement our town's charm, character, and identity. We have to create an environment that's desirable and welcoming. So we have to be responsible in our choices. I think we should focus on commercial development, which is easier on our resources. Again, additional tax revenue, and it will help create jobs. I'm not looking to change Mount Airy in the sense that we have to maintain that character.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier, would you like to respond?
No, thank you.
Mr. Munder?
No.
Okay, next, Councilman Poirier. You have stated that one of your top priorities if re-elected will be to find a home for the Mount Airy Police Department. How do you plan about going and doing such?
First, with the connection of Center Street, focusing on our budget to make a new home for the Mount Airy Police Department. They are an integral force in our town, and they need to have a permanent location that stands out to its residents as well as non-residents as well. As a town, we have explored many other options before, and nothing has really sparked our interest or provided suitable access for Mount Airy Police Department. So I would like to push this agenda item forward and push it with force to make sure that they have a home that they can have for the next 30 years, provide suitable access. They are our first emergency responders, and we want to make sure that they are taken care of.
Thank you. Mr. Munder, would you like to follow up at all?
No, just to say I totally agree with that statement.
Pamela?
I would agree 100%. The Mount Airy Police Department, they need a permanent home. It contributes to, it is in direct line with our public safety, and that's number one priority.
Thank you. Moving on to Mr. Munder's question. In your candidate profile in the Carroll County Times, you stated that one of your motivations for running was due to your interest in helping to guide the town through a period of downtown revival. Mr. Munder, how do you plan on reviving downtown? No pressure.
No pressure. Oh, no, there's a whole lot of pressure on that one. Now, I took this question as relating to the implementation of the downtown vision plan. So that's what my response is going to focus on, those specific ways or anything. There's some people at the table that are much more better suited for that than I can be, because they have much better interest in the holding festivals and getting people downtown. But I've attended every meeting that was open to the public for the downtown master plan, and I've seen it evolve over the course of time. This, I believe, will allow me to maintain an open mind for its implementation and not be set on any one type of implementation scenario. It is designed to change over time and over the years, and it probably will. The best thing to do is to take a few steps at a time, listen to the current downtown businesses and town residents during its implementation to see what they want and what they believe the town needs to do that. And I would also continue with reviewing the Planning Commission's recent recommendations and focus any taxpayer funds into areas where the town will receive the best return per dollar invested, in other words, the best bang for the buck, so the town residents can get what they pay for.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up at all?
Yes, so as the president of the Mount Airy Main Street Association and also a member of the Economic Development Commission, the downtown revitalization is very personal to me. I am very connected with the businesses on Main Street. I understand their concerns. I think the biggest concern for me is limiting whatever pieces of the vision plan that we choose to adapt. We need to limit the disruption on Main Street so that our local businesses do not suffer. The owners of these businesses live within our community and they work very hard. So I think we need to be responsible and choose wisely.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier.
I would just like to add on that our Economic Development Commission has been doing a great job with community partnerships, business card exchange. They've been going around promoting vacant buildings. We had a great little pop-up shop that has implored one of the empty buildings across the street here that allow them a 30-day lease to help them start up their business. And these are all inexpensive, viable ways to continue to grow downtown Main Street.
Thank you. Pamela, your second individual question. Mount Airy's small water supply is seen as a potential threat to future development. How will you overcome this hurdle?
So this is probably the hardest question for me. It's my understanding that Mount Airy is not necessarily lacking water, but the amount of our allocation comes from the Maryland Department of Environment. So we're limited as to what we're allocated. But to me, the greater concern is we have to be able to process what we use. And that's most important. So for me, the paramount issues are ensuring that we have clean drinking water, proper water treatment, and sewer management. So whatever development that we allow, the main concern for me is processing it. So for new development, we have three options. The developer can find new water. We can go to MDE and ask for more allocation. And there's actually something being proposed right now, which is called the Brinkley Bill, which will provide for more allocation for cluster development. If that passes, we have an opportunity for a higher allocation.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier.
Serving on the council for the last 4 years, one of the biggest concerns and issues that we've been faced is looking at wastewater, water that the town loses just in some of its plumbing or pipes or connections and those types of things. And there's been a large percentage of water that we have lost, not to any fault of our own, but I think we can do a much better job in updating our own infrastructure to make sure that that water that we're losing continues to stay where we want it to be, and that will help put some of that water back to usage.
Thank you. Mr. Munder.
Well, excuse me, as a member of the Water and Sewer Commission, I can honestly say that Mount Airy does have a small surplus of water, but it's not enough to encourage any future development. And the reason why MDE does limit the withdrawal of water from the ground is to make sure that there is enough for emergency supplies in time of drought, and that we do not impact the homes and residences and businesses surrounding Mount Airy.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier, your next question. You have been cited elsewhere as stating that the town and county's drug epidemic would be one of the most important issues you would like to see changed if re-elected. How do you plan on providing services for those battling addiction and combating the drug epidemic as a whole?
One of the things that, once we got a K-9, once we started our own force, one of the things that I wanted to know is when there is an overdose or there are drug-related charges, I wanted to find out if they were residents of Mount Airy. And the reason for that is because we have a business owner, Frank Eliano, that has done a great job thus far, and I would like to continue to work with Frank on this partnership. I want to continue to form partnerships. I want to have community meeting area for those that are in need. With the assistance of Mount Airy Police Department and counseling services, I would like to see the town be a little bit more involved to make sure that those that need the services are granted those opportunities to combat any of those concerns. Too often, too many times throughout the council meetings, we hear of opioid overdoses, and it's very disturbing, but we know that there are people out there that need help, and we should be doing a much better job providing that.
Thank you. Mr. Munder, would you like to follow up at all?
Not just that Councilman Poirier has hit on a major concern that drug addiction is a problem within Mount Airy, and I can support a lot of the things that he has said that to counter the effects and help the people that are impacted by this problem.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up at all?
Only that it takes a community. If we work together as a community, it's certainly something that we can overcome. And the Iliano project is fantastic, and they've done great work.
Thank you. Mr. Munder, your second individual question. Creating more open space is one of the 3 main initiatives you will undertake if elected. How will you pursue fiscally responsible ways to increase the amount of open space that town residents have access to?
Well, obtaining open space is important to me, since I do sit on the Parks and Recs, the Recreation and Parks Commission. I better get that right, or I will hear about it. Because currently the town is approximately 100 acres short of open space based on its current population and the APFO. I believe the fiscally responsible thing to do, that this could be done in multiple stages. First, we need to look at the 2013 town master plan to see what areas that have been allotted for annexation can meet or fulfill the need for open space. And then once we do that, the town needs to reach out to all our local officials on county, state, and federal level to obtain funding and grants to purchase these properties and maintain them as open space. And then once they're in the town boundaries, we can, I want to say, explore or add the recreational opportunities to them as funds allow.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up at all?
Yeah, so there is currently in discussion a piece of property that could potentially be annexed in that would offer us 85 acres of open space. I think it's worth looking at and considering.
Councilman Poirier?
One of the things that I would like to add on would be just better usage of some of our open space. One of the things that our Sustainable Mount Airy Commission is taking a look at is using areas that would provide a different type of service to residents, such as community gardens or a compost pile and those types of things that they're just blank areas that no one's really doing anything with. So better using the areas that we have might provide more open space than what people might actually think that we have.
Thank you. Pamela, your third and final individual question. You are the founder and organizer of the Mount Airy Junior Task Force. How has this kept you in touch with our town's youth, and in what ways will you open up more avenues for young people in Mount Airy to get involved with local government if elected?
So Junior Task Force was created to educate our youth on local municipalities and local government, but also to engage them in the community. And I think that's what's most important, not just the political end of it. We have some great programs in town. The Mount Airy Lions Club has the Leos, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. I think local leaders need to continue to support and engage in those organizations, to get our kids out and identify volunteer opportunities. If we keep them active, maybe they won't use drugs, and if they're active in the community, they actually care about what's happening in the community, and that's really the goal.
Thank you. Councilman Poirier?
I would just like to thank Pam for all of her services. I know all three of our kids are on the Junior Task Force, so obviously, they look up to us about what we do, and by her starting that commission has given them another place and made my life even a little bit more busier than what it already is. So
the motivation here is our kids get drugged into meetings with us all the time. So they wanted to be able to have their own meeting.
so they're dragging us.
Yes.
Okay.
No, they covered it. I would like to thank Pam for all she has done for the youth of Mount Airy.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilman Poirier, your third and final individual question. What would you say? What would you have been? Excuse me. Sorry.
It's okay.
What would you say has been your biggest accomplishment serving on town council thus far? Also, what is something that you wish would have been handled differently by the town council, if anything, during your current term?
My question had an S on it, so I'm going to say accomplishments.
Oh, you got to run with it.
Okay. So some of the things that I've been really honored and humbled to be able to provide not only the residents but also work with the town council in creating some local ordinances. So for example, no smoking in parks, providing an identifiable address for 911 operation system. I learned about that one the hard way. Applying and receiving a HEAL legislation act, which focuses on healthy eating and active living. Helping create the Mount Airy Police Department, helping to expand rails to trails, relocating the museum for the Historical Society, assisting with Mackenzie, and also being able to provide some of the supportive funding for town-related events. I've also been really honored to work with the Save Mays campaign to make sure that Mount Airy Elementary School continues to be an integral part for its residents. In the past 4 years, I've had the pleasure of working with a very supportive and collaborative council. Communication needs to be continue to be clear. Working together and for the residents of the town is also at the top of the agenda. I will continue to fight and promote this agenda throughout my next term, if so elected. What can't be guaranteed are those that are sitting next to you at the same table. You can only hope that they are that when they are elected, that they also act with due diligence and competence. I hope that this newly formed council forms collaborative bonds and has its residents at the top of its priority.
Thank you. Mr. Munder?
Well, all I can say, if I'm elected on May 6th, that's a very tough list to follow, and I would just hope to accomplish half of what Jason has done in his 4 years
Thank you.
of being a council member.
Pamela?
The only thing I would add is I think community engagement is very important. We have to continue to work to get the information out to the community, make it easily accessible, and just work hard.
Thank you. Mr. Munder, finishing us off with the Section 2 questions here. Control growth is also one of your three main initiatives if elected. How do you plan to pursue such in a fiscally responsible manner?
Well, I guess I put this out to myself and I kept asking I'm fiscally responsible. But I look at the most fiscally responsible way to implement controlled growth is continue the current town policy of one where the developer pays for any infrastructure improvements related to their proposal. This includes bringing in new water sources online for any new development, the infrastructure of roads, water and sewer, and anything else. And I would also like to review if there is a current impact fee structure to see if it's been updated since we have had a slow growth period, to make sure that it adequately reflects the true cost of of development on town, because I know that if we do not have one, or a very good one, the development will come here because of our low impact fee.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up at all?
Yeah, only that I would use the term smart growth instead of controlled growth. I think controlled growth limits us. We want to be open to the possibilities, but we want to be selective.
Councilman Poirier?
I just want to put out there that change will occur. It's inevitable, and people react differently to change. Some are more accepted of the change more than others, excuse me. And I would just make sure that that any growth that does happen does not have a huge impact on town resources. We need to make sure that any growth that we have that is beyond what has been planned follows within the APFO and is within the town resources.
Thank you. This concludes section 2 of our presentation. We will be taking a 5-minute intermission, and thereafter we'll be entering into our final and third section of today's presentation, where you, the audience, will have the chance and opportunity to ask all of our wonderful candidates questions. Take this time now as we go off for just a couple minutes to ask your questions, and we'll hopefully answer as many as we possibly can. Thank you for attending and listening in so far, and hopefully we can finish this just as well as we've started it. Thank you. Welcome back. We will begin section 3. These are questions that have been submitted to myself from you guys, the audience, on Facebook Live. You are free to ask any sort of question that you'd like pertaining to the election throughout the remainder of this section. We'll answer as many questions as we can get to before the 9:30, I guess, hard stop, if you will.
8:30.
8:30, my bad. Oh no. That was a,
What are you,
that was a
surprising us
that
with
was
another hour?
an oops moment. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get a kick started here with a question from Bill. Bill asks, Mount Airy, as all Maryland municipalities, are required to update their town master plan every 10 years. Mount Airy's last update was completed in 2013. In your opinion, what are the best ways to ensure implementation and the majority of goals and supported initiatives throughout Mount Airy's master plan? I guess we'll start with Pamela.
Okay,
yeah.
Alright, this is a general question, so you guys all have 1 minute to respond.
Okay.
So as I understand it, the 2013 Comprehensive Master Plan is a guide to help us as new development wants to come into Mount Airy. That's how it was explained to me. There are multiple suggestions and initiatives in there. I think it's important that we challenge our commissions to be creative and follow through strategically to implement some of it. But again, as I understand it, it's a tool to use as new development comes to Mount Airy to guide us through the process.
Councilman Poirier?
With the 2013 master plan, and then the additional with the vision plan, it's really important that we take a look at what has changed and what really hasn't changed between the vision plan and the comprehensive master plan. With aligning what we see about how Mount Airy grows for the future, we want to be able to incorporate both of those. The comprehensive plan, as Pamela stated, is a guide. The vision plan is even a further guide that will say, here's what Mount Airy could look like in the future, and what we want to do, hearing from the residents, the commission members, and even the town council and the mayor, we want to be able to see what will give us the best bang for the buck. Mr. Munder talked about that earlier in looking at projects that will provide us future growth, future benefit, but also know that we don't have to do everything on the vision plan. We can take those things that are hot topics that are important to our town and get the most beneficial experience out of those.
Thank you. Mr. Munder?
Okay, as I understand, the question is related to the 2013 Comprehensive Master Plan, and it's being updated during the next four years.
In 2023,
In
yeah.
2023. So first off, I would like to see what the town believes that still needs to be done, or what it wants. And recently, the mayor has announced the formation of a town survey. So we need to conduct that to see what the needs of the town are, and then just repeat the process again. It's like follow the guide once it's done to complete it, and to implement the vision plan and the comprehensive master plan as guides. And as I'll agree with what Pam and Jason said, we need to listen to the citizens, the town, the elected officials, and the commissions as this process moves forward.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
Only that it's very important that we measure the needs versus the wants so that we're responsible in our choices.
Councilman Poirier?
No, thank you.
Mr. Munder?
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, moving on to our second audience question of the night. Andrea asks, would the pay as you throw be for both Carroll and Frederick counties? Pamela?
If it were something that we ever instituted, again, I would be open to the idea of a voluntary enrollment. But if it did go townwide, I would imagine that it would have to be within the city limits. So if you pay a water bill, you're within the city limits. So it would probably be both for Carroll and Frederick. But again, at this time we can't. None of us have enough information to even decide if it's a good program for Mount Airy.
All right, thank you. Councilman Poirier?
The only thing that I will add is it will have to be for both counties as the municipality splits 60-40 between the two counties. I just question whether having two haulers come into town to have some residents pay as you go while others are still doing paying it through their tax bill. With the people that are seeing it as a trial basis, do we lessen their taxes, or we have to kind of figure out some of the smaller nuances that are associated with that. But it would have to be for both counties if you live within Frederick on the Mount Airy side and for Carroll.
Thank you. Mr. Munder?
I'll agree with what my other two opponents have said, that it would have to be implemented in both Carroll and Frederick counties, primarily due to the municipalities being split between two counties. But the devil is in the details on this one. So we would have to research it to make sure it's a viable option for the town. I do support any type of program, or would like to be interested in looking further into any program that would reduce the waste that goes to our landfills.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
Thank you.
Councilman Poirier? All right, great. Moving on to our third question. This comes from Mark. So it's worded as a question for all the candidates, but two of you, both Pamela and Councilman Poirier, you have a specific aspect, and you, Karl, Mr. Munder, also have a specific aspect.
Okay.
So I'll ask it just as we go along. Just kind of let's just get into this, I guess. Pam and Jason answered the question about supporting raising taxes, but Karl didn't. Could he answer? So actually, this is just amended to you. Would you like to follow up on your previous answer regarding raising taxes or not raising taxes?
I thought I answered that fairly clearly, saying that I would have to be dependent on the cause for the tax increase brought on by the mayor. I'm not for or against, but I'm not going to just raise taxes solely on the purpose of having to raise a tax. It would have to be for a specific reason that the town can benefit from, looking at the current needs and the future needs of the town moving forward.
Okay.
So, am I incorrect in this? The mayor can make a recommendation, but it's town council that would actually vote on an increase, correct?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Okay. Is there any more appetite to discuss this question at all? Or?
Do you mind if I just add 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So in looking at the tax increase, the mayor this year for the next fiscal year is not looking at raising taxes. So the 16 cents that we're looking at for the past 3 or 4 years will continue moving forward with, granted, almost a brand new council, with the vision plan right around the corner, and taking a look at some implications that might have on our side. Dipping into reserves will certainly be an option, or become more viable than raising taxes, and I think focusing on a public-private partnerships, so that we don't have to raise taxes. We know certainly money could be spent elsewhere, and we want to keep money in the pockets of our residents.
Sounds great. Our next question comes from Melissa. She asks, were any of the residents consulted in the development of the downtown vision plan? If not, will taxes be raised to fund it? This is a general question, so all of you guys will have 1 minute to respond and then 30 seconds to then follow up. So starting with you, Pamela.
Yeah, so the public was involved or invited to attend the meetings related to the downtown vision plan from the beginning of the process to the end of the process. There were multiple meetings held at the Carnival Grounds Fireman's Building. They were open to the public, and many people did attend, probably not as many as we would have liked.
Okay, Councilman Poirier.
I would also just add on to what Pamela has said. There was ample opportunity to throw your voice at the vision planners to see and comment on what you liked, what you didn't like. Once again, you know, we see the same involved residents that hear about these things, read the newspapers, come to the council meetings, that become involved. And it's the residents that live in town and hear about these things and wonder why is it that they didn't get an invite or anything like that. If you want to be involved, you have to put some effort into finding out about your local government, and whether that's attending the webpage or attending a council meeting or reading the Mount Airy Messenger, which really focuses on local government, local politics. You have to kind of do your own due diligence in that, and I'm sorry that she didn't get to voice her opinion in that.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Munder?
No, I mean, there's nothing to really add as to the meetings. The public was well informed. I was interested. I attended all the meetings that were open to the public, and I believe the second part of the question was, would taxes be raised to pay for it? And only time will tell on that one.
Okay.
It's hard to anticipate because we're at the beginning stages of implementation of the vision plan.
So if I could say one more thing, during the meetings at the public hearings, our Design Collective, the company that performed the study, actually incorporated into the design suggestions from the community. Those who attended had a voice in what was the final product of that vision plan.
Okay, Councilman Poirier, would you like to follow
No
up?
follow-up.
Mr. Munder?
No problem.
So this is also an extension, someone else asked this question, but it's similar to the last question we asked, although it's covering a different topic.
Okay.
This is a general question. You all have 1 minute to respond, 30 seconds to follow up. Don Murray asks, what are your thoughts about the vision plan? I'm going to extend that to basically say, are there specific aspects that you solely support or do not support? Just in general, what is your feelings about the current downtown vision plan? Starting with you, Pamela.
I think it's important to consider the Planning Commission's recommendations. Center Street, the gas line, we need to make a decision on the Flatiron building. I'm trying to think of what else, they came up with a chronological priority list.
Mm-hmm.
To me, those are probably the top three that I think will sort of jumpstart our downtown, whichever way we decide, but something has to be decided.
Councilman Poirier?
I really personally liked all of it. You know, it's nice to see what people that have nothing to do with our town come in and develop their own ideas and come up with resources. These are like magicians, like, here's what you can do with this land, and blah, you know, if you had $5 million, here you go. But, you know, in the end, it's what is best for the town. And when something like Center Street does and hopefully come through, we're going to have to take a look at how that impacts our town. Then the next step will be, okay, what kind of things can we put on Main Street, or Center Street, excuse me, and we'll see how that impacts the town, and we'll do things slowly and methodically, but also looking at how that impacts its residents is really important, but also making sure that our revenues in our tax base stay where we can still have residents come to our town.
Mr. Munder?
I'd just like to add a little bit to what they said. The vision plan was exceptionally well done by Design Collective. I appreciate all the effort that they have put into it and put up with us, the town residents, at the meetings and everything else. I know it's part of the job, but still, it was nice to see them there. And also, I look at the vision plan as what it says. It's a vision plan, and it will change, and we will have to listen to the residents to see what is best for the town moving forward with this. The pictures were nice, but all it is pictures, and I would like to focus on investment dollars where it would do the best good for the town.
Okay. Pamela, would you like to follow up at all? Councilman Poirier?
No, thank you.
Mr. Munder? All right.
I'm good to go with the
Okay.
division plan.
Okay. Our next question comes from Kathy, and she asks that instead of building a standalone community center, would any of you candidates consider adding a community center, onto the current Carroll Senior Center? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm just trying to think
build
of
an expansion off
Yeah.
the senior center.
No.
Okay.
The want in this community for a community center is very obvious. It was in the, I believe it was 2006 or 2008 survey, 61% of the people that responded wanted a community center. Again, it was addressed in the 2013 comprehensive master plan. For me, a community center is priority. Again, we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it, wherever it may be. I don't know too much about the senior center, who owns that building, and if it's possible to extend on it. But I do think we need to start talking about a location for a community center, possibly partnering with private industry, maybe someone like the YMCA to help fund it. But it is something that we need to talk about and address.
Councilman Poirier?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea to put it off of the senior center location. There's a lot of community involvement that certainly attends there. I will say that this topic, once again, 4 years ago, was certainly brought up at my last discussion, and I would say that this was we came very, very close to having a community center. The idea of a community center is different for everyone. I was looking more big picture. Having youth go and play sports with indoor basketball court, that would help expand our local sports organizations if they wanted to start a indoor soccer league or basketball courts or volleyball like that. I was thinking bigger picture, and we came very, very close. Other council members, you can only do so much convincing. Other council members were focused on just small meeting rooms, and this is all we kind of need. And looking at price tags obviously impacted certain decisions as well. So trying to work collectively as a council to see what is best for its residents and moving forward. I will say that this project came super close, and I would love to continue looking at how we can certainly make this a vision for the residents.
Mr. Munder?
No, it's like this, there does seem to be an ongoing discussion of the want for the community center for town. As Jason said, the community center means different things to different peoples, what the activities they want to do. Simply adding on to the senior center / library is a potential option, depending on what the people want. If we just resurface the old design plans that were included with the tearing down the Flatiron building and put it there, and propose for Carroll County to do it. But as Pam said, the discussion needs to happen, and we need to either find land for it, find how we're going to fund for it, and potentially just get it done and get it moving. And on that note, I'm interested that we potentially might have an opportunity to start looking into a location of a community center downtown, if we can handle the old church building that is for sale now up on North Main Street.
Okay.
But I would like to at least entertain that thought of looking into it to see if it meets the needs.
Okay. Pamela, would you like to follow up?
No, thank you.
Councilman Poirier?
My only follow-up will be putting through Center Street. I think that will allow some other additional options with a community center. I would also like to find some way for arts to be integrated as well. I know there's a lot of local theater groups that would like its own stage, would like its own area to perform, and some of our local dance companies don't really have anywhere to go. And so allowing that opportunity, part of the community center, I would like for that to be thought of as well.
Mr. Munder?
Yep.
Okay, so we have there are two more questions in front of me, so we'll get through these and then we'll go ahead and we'll do closing statements. So this question is from Heather, and she asks, what are your thoughts on instituting and upholding blight ordinances? Starting with you, Pamela.
I think we need to be more aggressive enforcing blight ordinance. There are multiple buildings within Mount Airy that, in my opinion, are in disarray. They need to be repaired or developed. I stand firm. It's been the town's policy to initially try to work with the owners of those buildings, which is a very polite way to handle it. But we have to have a certain time limit to enforce that.
Okay. Councilman Poirier?
I will agree with Pamela that we have been very notorious in trying to work with owners. There are a lot of times where we don't know the situation of the owners, their lifestyles, something could have happened, certain circumstances, you know, whatever. But I think communication on their side to the town, they need to inform us about those things or difficulties. But there are certain owners that are on Main Street that certainly need to be pushed a little bit more. The bank building, I won't go into too many others, but the town can hold a stronger edge on those, since they are more than dragging their feet in delaying the progression of Main Street.
Okay. Mr. Munder?
As I said, the blight ordinance is a new ordinance that was just recently passed, I believe, a couple years ago, and the town has worked with, as far as I can tell by attending the council meeting and stuff, has worked with various homeowners, business owners, to try and ask them nicely to fix up the buildings. But once that's done, I believe we need to start using the blight ordinance for the reason why it was passed and implemented, to improve the buildings along Main Street and the neighborhoods.
Okay, Pamela, would you like to follow up?
No, thank you.
Councilman Poirier?
I don't disagree with what the candidates are saying. I think we can certainly hold a little bit stronger, but I also, when you don't know the backstory, and something unfortunate could have happened, and there are certainly, we encounter those problems, that, you know, we want to be mindful of that.
Mr. Munder?
I agree.
All right, our last question of the forum tonight is from Rick Dye, and he asks, what is going on at Prospect Place, the cold storage lot, and do you support it? Starting with you, Pamela.
So it's my understanding what is proposed there is a 100-unit apartment building. The zoning, it's zoned downtown, which does permit apartments. However, the developer does not meet the APFO standards, and town council has given it an unfavorable recommendation. It is up to the planning commission whether it's approved or disapproved. I personally would not support the development of that property for that use.
Councilman Poirier?
Pamela has done a great job explaining that. There's really nothing else that I need to add on to that, and you know, it's unfortunate that that has been undeveloped for so long as well, and we certainly need to fix that.
Mr. Munder?
The Prospect Place, as Pamela says, I believe is approximately 100-unit apartment building, and I'm not aware if the town council has approved or disapproved with it, but I do know that it is coming before the planning commission this Monday, April 29th. So if you have any concerns with it, please come out and voice your opinions then. As live feed is, get involved and come out and voice your opinions to that. As if I support it or not support it, I believe any use of that needs to be complementary to the surrounding land uses, and that's about it.
Okay, Pamela, would you like to follow up at all?
No, thank you.
Councilman Poirier?
No, thank you.
Mr. Munder?
Nope.
All right, that concludes section 3 of tonight's presentation. We will now finish off by having closing statements from each of the candidates, starting with you, Pamela. You have 60 seconds.
So I did not pre-prepare a closing statement, but what I will say is that if I'm elected to town council, I am action-oriented. I understand the need for a slow process, but I think some of our processes could be expedited. As stated, we are still talking about the same issues as we were 4 years ago, and in some cases 8 years ago. It is time to sit down and talk about these issues and move forward so that we can focus on other things. I am, again, action-oriented, and I work hard for this town now, and I just want to do it on a broader scale. So that's why I'm here.
Councilman Poirier?
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you for your time this evening. Thank Ben and Andrew for their time and self-sacrifice in making sure that this could actually happen and make sure. And I think it's really important that voters come out on May 6th to come and vote. Please, please, please come and vote. You've had an opportunity to address your concerns and continue to do so on any of the election forums. So please address, if you have any questions or anything like that, please address them to the forum. We will take the time. We've given our time to help serve you, and I will certainly do the same for the second term if so elected, and work for the betterment of the town and also its residents. So thank you for your time this evening.
Mr. Munder?
Well, I guess I have prepared a closing statement, so please bear with me.
1 minute.
One minute early, shucks. Well, I guess it's time to bring the roundtable discussion to an end. Hopefully I have showed the residents of Mount Airy that I am someone who possesses the experience, dedication to the town, and knowledge to address the challenges that lie ahead for the town. Let me leave you with some thoughts on qualities I believe a town council member needs to be effective. To me, a council member needs the following traits: the ability to tell the truth when needed, just not when it's convenient; the ability to listen to the various opinions from residents on topics; be able to make decisions based on research, not emotion; be willing to conduct that research on topics to attain the information that allows a vote uninfluenced by outside interest. I'm a person that will listen and do the research needed to make an informed decision, no matter how small or large a topic, because no matter what, someone will be impacted by what I decide. For when I do cast a vote, I want to make a well-informed one that is based on fact and is what is best for the town residents. So I would like to say thank you to my opponents once again, once more to Matt Geiger, I believe Drew, and Ben for their time, and most of all the residents of Mount Airy that have tuned in and have taken their time to take part in this event. But no matter who you will decide on how this town moves forward, if you have any questions, if you have more questions, do not hesitate to contact us via the forum, as Jason said. I just want to encourage everyone to exercise a right not given to a lot of people in this world and come out to the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company's reception hall on May 6th between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. and vote. Thank you.
Thank you for attending this roundtable. I know it was organized relatively hastily, and the format is much different than it has been in previous years, but I sincerely appreciate all of the efforts that you have to come out here and to share your thoughts, and thank you for all those who've tuned in. This discussion is not just limited to tonight. This video will be available on YouTube. I will be posting the link in the Mount Airy Election Forum Facebook group. This live stream right here will be available throughout the remainder of the campaign and will be available for all to see and watch. And then once once the election concludes, hopefully we continue to have these conversations and hopefully we stay just as engaged as we are right now. Remember to go vote on May 6th. And thank you again for tuning in. I just want to give one more shout out before we go for Ben for hosting us here and for my friend Andrew for running the clock tonight. Thank you guys so much for your help. And that is about it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I see you all on May 6th.